get straight into it. It's Colony, the opiate Dragon Buster period, and we're going to be talking about something completely different today. We're talking about building apps, but in a very no-code fashion. I am a software engineer. I build, well, at the moment, I don't build software, but I build automation processes. But there's a very crucial part of being agile. And being agile can mean sometimes, being able to produce software quickly with little or no effort. And that's what we're really talking about today. It's all no code. So I get this question a couple of times. Where can I use no code? So you can use no code in different places. No code sort of works. No code building apps works for teams. It works for different industries, kind of industry agnostic as well. So it's a process led, in the sense that you can have a process called request form in this instance. You can have a process called timesheet. You can have a process called expense claim, and you can use no code for sort of those kind of processes. As no code, most of the no code solutions you have out there would have some form of database that's stored in your data or in a spreadsheet or whatever it's called. It would have a bit of automation with it as well, and would have some graphics where you can actually adapt some of them for your based on your branding, and you can adapt them for your process and yeah, for your organization as well. Years ago, I remember I used to work in a big firm, and we used to have all these request forms where you request for something to be done by IT. This is talking about software installation, hardware configuration. Let me unravel what we're working on today. What we have on the right hand side is what we're working on today, or what we are building. So let's have a look at all of this. So I have the first name, I have the last name, I have department, manager. As you can see, the drop down is still there. I have the phone number, I have email address as well. So you can see the phone number, the email address. You can see all of these. This is like this is, I think, what's this called again? I can't remember. It's not is it a checkbox? Can't remember what it's called. My mind just froze for a second. But I have transformed that into a drop down, and you have the functionality to submit, or you have the functionality to cancel. So while we are looking at this, you can see this is from the left hand side to the right hand side what we actually have. This is pretty, isn't it? With little or no effort, it's pretty. So let's get started and have a look at what Amazon Honeycode is all about. So just so you understand, Amazon Honeycode is a no-code collaborative tool. It was developed by Amazon, and I think it was developed at some point. It was launched last year or so. I can't remember now, but it is a no-code tool that sits in AWS. You wouldn't have to worry about your cloud options. There are different pricing structures as well. It is free if you have a team of 20 people. You could potentially get this to work with any of your processes, very kind of lightweight processes as well, or processes that fit, that float around emails, or it's people don't even think they exist. So while we are talking about this, let's move it. Let's give it the whole screen. Let's have the whole screen. So just looking at this for a second, let's try to understand what's going on. So when you log into, or when you register on Amazon Honeycode, what happens is you are immediately requested, or they immediately ask you what your use case is, and you specify the industry you're looking at. You specify the use case, and you can also decide, you tell them that you want to build a team solution, for instance, and they ask you to invite a member of your team. So usually you can invite up to 20 on the basic platform. So what we can see on the screen is called My Drive, My drive is basically a workspace. So if you've worked with any of the technologies, you know what a workspace is. It's where you perform some actions. This is where you're kind of where you can work really. And a workspace, my drive consists of what you have, workbooks and apps. So some of you have workbooks and apps. So a workbook is basically where you have access to your database structure, your tables, and some of this, your app building, and some of these applications. Then a workbook is a little bit different. A workbook looks like this. It has this sort of icon. Then an app has this. You can actually toggle between, a workbook and an app. So this, you can see these are my apps, and you can actually toggle between. You can toggle to workbooks as well. You can search if you have multiple. At the moment I have very few. So let's go straight into kind of building the infrastructure a bit. So now that we've familiarized ourselves, as you can see, that's Teams, and you have notifications and some of all these things. But now that we've familiarized ourselves with what Honeycode can do, you can see the resources, you can see how you can manage all of this. So let's get straight into building something. So I've already shown you an application called IT request form. So I'm going to walk you through how to build that with me. So yes, let's get started. Let's create a new workbook. So as you can see, creating a new workbook, you can start from the scratch. You can import CSV to table. So what this basically means is you can actually bring your own data. You can bring your own CSV, your own sort of Excel into this table, or you can build from scratch, or you can use sort of kind of template. But at the moment I'm just going to start from the scratch. So you have you can name your workbook whatever. The workbook again sounds a bit, they wanted to give it this kind of Excel kind of feeling, so I will call this workbook called, I think I'll call it Dream Team IT request form. You can call yours whatever you want to call yours. And I have a team I actually defined. So my team is Sandra Bangor's team. So again, this team could be HR, it could be risk, it could be whatever you want to call it. So let's create this. So immediately you create this, you come to this kind of workbook view. So this workbook view gives you three things, the three basic units of this workbook. So you have the tables, you have the builder, and you have automations. So the tables is basically your database kind of structure, your Excel kind of structure. This is basically your workbook. So if I was for something like an IT request form, there are a couple of things I really want to create. So one thing I want to create, again, this is a way to rename it. I want to create something called personal details. Personal details, that's a table I want to create. I actually want to create another table as well. So you can actually import CSV file, or you can add a blank table. So I want to create another table called again, there's a reason why I'm creating this table, because if you saw from that view, we had a couple of a few drop downs there, like two drop downs, one for the manager and the other one for department. So I'm going to create another one for managers. I'll create another one, add a blank table. I'll create another one for let's call it department. So this is basically like you're creating database tables. There's a database and you're creating the tables. So it's easy for you to know what the name of your app is from here, and the name of the name of the table from here as well. And you have all the other functionality to be able to customize this, which we'll see in a brief in a minute or so. So now that we've created these tables, I want to create this personal details. So it gives you this kind of Excel looking format, where you can have you can actually just treat it like Excel. You can actually even use some of the Excel functions here. They've configured it to that extent, which is quite interesting. So let's say I have this. I'm going to have first name as a column in this table. I'm going to have last name, or you can last name. So what would I be requesting? Again, a very quick one to no, just to view and to understand what you'll be creating is you need the first name, you need your last name, you need department. You can actually do the plus symbol, or you can actually add from here, and you can add the roles here as well. So you can do department, you can have email address, and did I miss something? I missed manager. So you can have the manager, you can have email address, you can have the phone number, and you can have, I'll call it incidents. So since I'm not doing anything with this, I can actually highlight all the cells and actually delete the rows. Okay, so the next thing I want to define is I want to define the managers. So the managers would have, let's say, a first name. The manager would have a last name as well, and the would have full name, and that's all for the manager. So what this means is I can actually define some of the manager details here. So let's say the first person is Sam Smith. I can go on to use an Excel functionality here, which is quite I can use something called concatenate. So I can go concatenate. This is typical of Excel. You know, you select the first one. So let me do this again. So that's an equal symbol. So you can do something like this: A2 and B2. So I'm not really happy with this, so I'm going to include this as well. So the next one I'm going to have, well, next name would be Michael Bolton. I love Michael Bolton. And the next person I would have is Sharon Stone. And because this is almost like an Excel kind of view, I can actually use it and bring it down to copy down the function. So I'm happy with this table. So for departments, I think I just need just one column. I don't need a lot in terms of departments as well, because let's delete the table. Let's delete the table as well. So let's call these departments. I could actually call it names as well. I can call this risk. I can call this compliance. I could call this IT. I'll just keep adding more. I could call these HR. I could call these security. I'll delete this. I'm kind of running out of ideas now, so I'll delete this. But this kind of gives you a functionality of how this works. So I can change the style as well. I can make it bold. I can make this bold. Let's see. Yeah, you can see this. You can make it bold. You can change the font size. You can do a few change the colors as well. I think I'm just too fast for this. So let's do this. Let's change it. So this kind of gives you that whole Excel kind of vibes. So the next thing we're gonna do is, I think I'm okay with this, or I might actually need to define what these incidents are. So let's go for the another blank table. Let's select this tool, command, yeah. So delete table columns, and I'll call this types for a second. Or maybe I might change it. I'm just gonna leave it. I think it's okay. So I'll call this laptop. I'll call this laptop carrying pace. I'll call the other one AC power. So I'm really slow in typing, so bear with me. Just don't ask me to type 500 lines. You're gonna waste your time. I do a lot of copying and pasting. Like, I'm very lazy in typing. So I think we have the relevant tables we need to be able to embed some of these functionalities we're seeing. So I decided to kind of put this as a drop down because it kind of goes well, right? I wouldn't. Well, you could argue that you could have laptop and AC power code issue at the same time, but I think it's kind of out of what I'm trying to achieve here. So I'm just to customize this as well, because they can only select one option. So I'm going to go back to the personal details here, and I'm going to create another table, another column, insert another column to the right. So I'm going to call this incident description. So that just means that you're able to describe what the problem is, just looking at it. So now that we have all of this here, so you have a brief idea, because this is sort of this Excel kind of vibes. You can drag and you can move things around. So I think now that we have the idea of what we are looking for, let's go straight into building. As I discussed, the workbook gives you the opportunity to define tables. You can define automations, and you can define the apps. So you use the builder for defining the apps. So let's go into builder. Let's create a new app. So what we're looking at the app as well, we can either create that from scratch, or we can use an app wizard. So I think I would go with from scratch. The developer in me just wants to do something always from the scratch, because you always want to just kind of go, oh, I'm not going to customize anything, I'm going to just build from the scratch. So now that we have all of this, I think we have the information we need, and just have a mental picture of this. I'm going to just walk along with this mental picture, and maybe just take away the left hand side so that we can see all of the information. But before we do that, so everything with no code as well would normally come up with mobile and web view. So this is how this would look on my mobile if I were to play around this on my mobile. So I have the web version. The web version is it looks different. And you have the mobile, which is a smaller version of how that will look on your phone. So just around this, it doesn't really matter where I'm customizing this, it would influence both of them as well. So let's just go into the mobile view. So just remember, everything within the app, within the builder, the builder is used for building the apps, and the within this you have what we call screens. So screens are basically your pages within your app. So you can define, so this would always tell you screen, this is the name of the screen. So it just tells you the screen, and this is the name of the screen. The screen name is called screen name. So I would want to customize this. You have the opportunity to customize this yourself. You can change the name of this, you can change this segment, especially if you're trying to remember what it is. So I call it screen 1, it will automatically reflect there. So you can also do this as well. You can go directly to the app and make changes to the app. So I'll call this IT service request form. Okay. So, and I think this is where everything is all starting to make a lot of sense. So this is where everything is beginning to start making a lot of sense. So what you want to do next is to start dragging and dropping, and that's what the add object is for. So there are very few components to actually drag and drop. A lot of things have been simplified. So just to make sure we have kind of the right format, I'm looking for the layout. I would go with something called segment. So segment is different. Segment is a way for you to be able to, especially if you're into web design, you'll be familiar with something called divs. Sections or sections. They allow you to be able to structure your website and maybe have side by side, horizontal, vertical view, all of those kind of things. Sorry, I think now I'm confusing myself. I think horizontal is this way and vertical is that, whatever. Yeah. So let's look at the segment, and within the segment you can actually drop content. So segment is for helping you to do the layout, so you can actually start dropping some fields and input. So the first thing I want to do is, because the first name is actually an input, we're expecting the customer or the user to give us their first name. I would go with a form because I think that's what we're trying to build. So I'll go with a form. Let's go with a form. So with a form, you can actually use a button and the form screen, or you can use a form in current screen. So I will actually just break this up. So let's go with something form in current screen. So add form data. So this is what you want to do. You want to add form data to personal details. So this automatically means that if we're to use this form, this would automatically put the data into this table for us. So you can select the tables you want that to be populated itself. But I'm going to choose personal details. And what do I want to get back into personal details? So I want the first name, the last name, department, all of this to go into personal details. So I'm going to create this myself, and you can start viewing some of all this, how this would look like. So I can even go to as far as view app. Take a few seconds, and you can already see that it's giving you that kind of vibe already. You don't need to do a lot, and you can start building. As you can see, there's something I don't really like the way this app 1 is showing. I don't even like the way this sort of thing is kind of laid out. It kind of gives me a kind of the Excel kind of vibe. So I'm gonna do a bit of layout and design here, just to suit what we're trying to achieve. So the next thing, because if you can see, there is the IT service request form. You have that logic there. So rather than do I want to replicate that. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to add another segment. Again, I always forget that you can't click it. I'm going to add another segment. I think I must have done something. You can always do Ctrl+Z to get you back to where you want to be. So this is a contact box. So within content box you can't put anything. So this is personal details. I want to put in, let's say, a block. Maybe will I put in a blank block? I could put in a blank block if I wanted to, but I can always just readjust. I can always readjust this segment. No, I think I'll take the personal. You can always move things around, really. So that's one thing about some drag and drop. Sometimes you need to kind of drag and drop a lot. Yeah, so I can drop that component there and start writing IT service request form, and you have let's see, you have please fill out this form, an IT service team member will be in touch with you shortly. Okay, so I think I have a mental picture of how this should look like, so I'm gonna take this out. Just give us that kind of view we want to see. So there are some things that we can do with this, based on what I discussed. We can, make this bold. We can, have this. We can have this displayed in a particular way. I think with the context, with this, you could actually change this maybe to a green, maybe to look a little bit different. And just around our, kind of view as well, there's something that I want to change. This way this is laid out, I don't really like it, so I can do this sort of behavior as well. I can take this, lay this out completely different. So automatically that starts, showing us how this is built. It starts looking a bit different. So the next thing I want to do is I'm going to do this quickly. From here we can start filling out a lot of names. We can go from Tom, maybe let's go for Tom Hanks, and Tom's department is something else, but you can see the way the department is. It's not really a drop down from what we thought it would look like, because if you look at some of the what our requirement looks like, we thought this would be a drop down and the manager will be a drop down, then some of the other functionalities will be a drop down. So I want to change this slightly to start looking like a drop down. So this department, you can set this. Let's see if can I make this a drop down from here. You can always, again, that's one thing to mention. Once you have that, each of these content boxes, you can have some, and automation around them as well. Because if you look at my done, you can have automation around it as well. So when it's done, there's an automation that happens. So I don't want this to even be called done button first. So I can change this to submit. Then this cancel, that's okay with me. And also the position of this, I'm not sure I like this, so I'm going to change the position to look something of like something similar to the other ones as well. So within a content box, you have you can really cascade so many functionalities or so many cells or whatever components within it. So if I was talking about these are the labels are you have content boxes, then you have all this. So these are some of the way this looks like. This is editable as well, meaning the user can provide information around it. And one thing as well is with display, you can format this option, so I can actually change this way from the way it's looking to having the partner as a row, link, and pick list. Then I can select the data type as a table, so I can make it, meaning that I can start doing some link ups. So I can do the as a link up because I already have something called departments, so I can have department and have this linked up, and that should be okay because you can actually see that the department is beginning to look different. And so this is the kind of the functionality of row, link, and pick list. So the next one I have is I want to make my manager look like this as well. So I want to change the display. I want to change the display from also to row, link, and pick list. So I'm going to make it a table as well, and I'm going to go for the for managers table. And this starts looking completely different because once you look at the page, you can actually see this is already a drop down. So I want to do the same thing for incidents. I want to do the same thing for incidents. So I want to change this from this to row, link, and pick list. I want to change into a table. Then I want to select. I think I'm not entirely sure. Is it called table 1? I'm not really sure why that's looking like that. So I can go back to my table and see what this is about. Okay, this is the table types. So let's change this to incidents. So one thing about this is that this automatically starts replacing some of all these things. So this is where you see the app 1. That's because the name of the app is called app 1 at the moment. So I can change this name of this app just right here and right now to Dream Team request form. So I can change that, automatically change the name of the app and change this over there as well. So obviously this is something that I don't need to think about. So I've already changed the incident. So you can see this is already selecting the incident. So the last thing there are a few things I want to change more before this starts working the way I want it to work. I don't really like the way this is sort of laid out, like IT request form, blah blah blah. So because this is not as pretty as this. And one thing to note is there is no place where you can actually put in your company logo, so it's a bit generic. I think that's something that Amazon needs to work on. I'm not completely sure if it's there because I didn't see it, but it's something they need to sort of work on and have that kind of customization as well. So I can actually change. And one thing to note, this could also change. Like you can change this color as well. There isn't so much about changing this sort of layout to look more like this. You can actually put some boxes around. I think you can put boxes. I think I saw something. Let's see how we can do it. So for this one, for the content box, I think you can actually put in let's see, first name. Maybe we change that. How does that look like? Not very no difference. If we change that, okay. So I'm going to add in another object. So there's a segment here. So within this segment, I can add another object, and that other object will be a contact or a content box. So adding another content box, and I'm able to do this. Oh Jesus, I hate when this happens. So I would cut this and paste this one here, and this should start looking a bit different. Like when you see this should look a bit, maybe. And let's change this. I think I don't like this whole feel, so I'll put no feel for now. Let's see, and on this segment I will put a feel around the segment, maybe to give it a bit of a different look, maybe something quite similar. Then I can, so this is some of the functionalities you can actually do. You can start moving this to a center, move this to a center as well, and it starts looking, it starts looking like this. So it does automatically update itself. So you're beginning to see how this is looking at the moment. And I believe you can also change these colors, like if you didn't want them to be submit, blue and red cancel, you can actually make this much more beautiful, if you might say. So let's try and do something about this, because I don't really like the way it looks. So let's change this to that. I think it's more better off, because red and blue, it's I don't like it. It can be too sharp sometimes. Let's change this to orange. So let's tap it down a bit. Let's give it. It does take a few seconds to do this. You can actually change some of the layout and give it some spacing. So if I can give this some spacing as well. Let's put in I can put in another. So just around here I can put in another segment, and I can take this segment up. Let's put in some information. I can put in some other things as well. I can put in I think just that should give me some bit of spacing. Did it? Probably not. So I need to put in some very empty content. So let's add a block to it. So when you put in the content, I think you need to take out the content, and I think I must have done something. I think I should give it a bit of spacing. Did it? Give it a bit of spacing? Probably not. This is probably going to be one of the apps where you just make it. I think it would give it spacing now. Where you just have to just put some very blank content. I think there should be something else that you can do with that, just to give you a bit of maybe I would change this. I hate when this jumps. But is it just me, or I have funny fingers, So I'm going to change this text to white, maybe. Would that still show? Let's see, because I want to make this as neat as possible. So change this to white. Let's change this to white. Okay, that kind of worked, because I changed the text to white, so it's given a bit of spacing from what I expected. So I think that's already looking, looking like how I want it to look like. And the next thing I want to do really is we already have what we need. I think we can start filling out some information, like the app looks beautiful, quite similar to what we built, what was on the left hand side. I think I haven't missed out any other thing, the first name, the last name, department, manager, email address, phone number. So I haven't missed out anything. So let's get started with we're just filling out some of the departments. So risk, let's select the manager, Sam. Let's put the email address 123@test.com. Let's select the ace. Okay, so it's broken. I'm not really sure of what's going on. Okay, so next thing I'm gonna put a phone number, probably not, and let's hit submit. So that automatically submits. So let's go into our DB and look at how this looks like. So let's go into personal details. So you can see some of all this data is already filled out, and yeah, that's how you do Amazon Honeycode. That's